The ship was quiet. Too quiet. Raka walked through the dark halls of the Iron Maw, her claws clicking against the metal floor. She was the alpha of this vessel, the leader of 300 Vorath warriors. Her silver fur was thick, and her golden eyes could see in complete darkness. She had fought in 12 wars. She had killed enemies twice her size. Nothing in this universe scared her. But tonight, something was very wrong. The crying had started again. She could hear it coming from the nursery at the end of the hall. 7 small voices, whimpering and howling. 7 cubs who should have been sleeping peacefully. Instead, they had not closed their eyes in 3 full days. Raka pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The nursery was warm and soft. Thick blankets covered the floor. Gentle blue lights glowed on the walls. Everything was designed to help young Vorath cubs feel safe and comfortable. But the 7 cubs inside were not comfortable at all. They moved around the room like small ghosts. Their eyes were red and tired. Their fur was messy and dull. The smallest one, a female named Bora, sat in the corner and cried without stopping. The others walked in circles, bumping into walls, too exhausted to think clearly. And Vorn, the eldest cub, stood at the sealed door. He scratched at it with his tiny claws. Over and over. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Vorn, Raka said softly. Come away from the door. You need to rest. The cub did not listen. He just kept scratching. Then he pressed his nose against the cold metal and said one word. It was a word he had learned from the ship's translator system. A human word. Yuna. Raka felt her ears flatten against her head. This was not the first time the cubs had said that name. They had been saying it for 3 days now. Yuna. 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 Like a prayer. Like a wish. Yuna was a human. A small, soft creature with no fur and no claws. She had worked on the Iron Maw as an engineer for 2 lunar cycles. She fixed broken machines. She cleaned the air filters. Simple work. Unimportant work. Then the Galactic Council had transferred her to another station. Outpost Kira 6, far away from here. That was 16 days ago. Raka had not thought about the humans since then. Why would she? Humans were common in the galaxy. They were everywhere, doing small jobs on ships and stations. They were not special. But the cubs remembered her. Raka walked over to Vorn and knelt down beside him. The cub was shaking. His whole body trembled with exhaustion. He needed sleep desperately. Without the dreaming state, young Vorath minds would begin to break apart. They would become hollow and empty. It was a terrible fate. Little one, Raka said gently. Why do you call for the human? She is gone. She cannot hear you. Vorn looked up at his alpha with huge, tired eyes. She promised she would come back. Raka did not know what to say. She had never heard of this promise. She had never paid attention to what the human did with the cubs. It had seemed unimportant at the time. Now she wished she had watched more carefully. The other cubs gathered around her. Bora stopped crying and crawled into Raka's lap. A male cub named Teho pressed against her side. They wanted her to fix this. They wanted her to bring the human back. But Raka was a warrior. She knew how to fight. She knew how to lead. She did not know how to heal broken little hearts. She picked up Bora and held her close. The small cub buried her face in Raka's fur and whimpered. Her tiny body was hot with fever. The lack of sleep was making her sick. What did the human do? Raka asked the cubs. Why is she so important to you? The cubs looked at each other. Then Vorn spoke in his small, tired voice. She told us stories, Earth stories, about brave animals who went on adventures, about lost creatures who found their families again. She made different voices for each character. She made us laugh. Cower, she sang to us, Teho added. Soft songs with no words. Just sounds. It made the scary thoughts go away. She stayed, Bora whispered against Raka's chest. When we had bad dreams, she stayed. She held us until morning. She said we were safe. She said she would always come back. Raka closed her eyes. Vorath cubs were strong. They were born with sharp claws and thick fur. They could survive cold and hunger and danger. But they were still children. And children, no matter what species, needed to feel loved. The human had given them something that Raka could not give. Something soft and warm and patient. Something that made them feel like the most important creatures in the universe. And then she had left. Without saying goodbye. Without explaining why. To the cubs, it must have felt like the end of the world. Raka stood up, still holding Bora in her arms. The other cubs pressed close to her legs. They were all shaking. They were all afraid. I will find her, Raka said quietly. I do not know how. I do not know if she will come. But I will try. Vorn looked up at her. For the first time in 3 days, there was a tiny spark of hope in his eyes. Promise? He asked. Raka thought about the human word, promise. It was a heavy word. A word that meant you would not fail, no matter what. She looked at the 7 small cubs who depended on her, who trusted her, who were slowly falling apart because someone they loved had disappeared. I promise, she said. That night, Raka did not sleep either. She sat in the nursery with the cubs piled around her, and she began to plan. She would contact the Galactic Council. She would demand answers. She would fight anyone who stood in her way. Whatever it took, she would bring the human home. The communication screen glowed blue in the darkness of Raka's private chamber. She had been waiting for 20 minutes. The Galactic Council did not like to hurry for anyone. Not even a Vorath Alpha. Finally, a face appeared on the screen. It belonged to a thin creature, with gray skin and 4 eyes. His name was Official Pello, and he worked for the Species Integration Bureau. He looked tired and annoyed. Alpha Raka of the Iron Maw, he said in a flat voice. How may I assist you at this late hour? Raka did not waste time with polite words. I need a human returned to my ship. Her name is Yuna Park. She was transferred to Outpost Kira 616 days ago. I want her back. Official Pello blinked all 4 of his eyes. I am sorry. Did you say you want a human? A specific human? 1? Oh. Yes. May I ask why? Humans are quite common. If you need an engineer, I can send you a different one. Within 3 days. We have many available. Raka felt her claws dig into the armrest of her chair. I do not want a different one. I want Yuna Park. The official sighed and looked at something on his own screen. He was quiet for a moment as he read. Then he looked back at Raka with confusion on his gray face. According to our records, Engineer Park was with your crew for only 2 lunar cycles. She performed basic maintenance work. There is nothing special about her service record. Why would you specifically need this human? Raka thought about how to explain. It sounded foolish, even to her own ears. A mighty Vorath Alpha, demanding the return of one small human because her cubs missed her. The other species in the galaxy would laugh at such a thing. But Raka did not care about laughter. She cared about her cubs. My young ones have not slept in 3 rotations, she said. They cry for this human. They will not rest until she returns. Official Pello stared at her. Your cubs are requesting a specific human? He shook his head slowly. Alpha Raka. That makes no sense. Humans have no special abilities. They cannot form telepathic bonds. They have no pheromones that affect other species. There is no scientific reason why Vorath cubs would need a human to sleep. I am not asking you for reasons. Raka growled. The sound was deep and dangerous. I am asking you for the human. The official's gray skin became a little paler. He knew what Vorath were capable of when they were angry. Alpha Raka, please understand. Reassigning personnel requires paperwork, approvals, It could take weeks. My cubs do not have weeks. Surely there must be another solution. Have you tried sedatives? Calming medicines? Raka slammed her fist on the table. The communication screen shook. You do not drug Vorath cubs. Their minds are delicate. If they do not enter the dreaming state naturally, their thoughts will shatter. They will become hollow shells. Empty. Gone. Forever. She leaned closer to the screen. Her golden eyes burned with fury and desperation. Do you understand what I am telling you? 7 cubs. 7 children. They are dying slowly. Because they cannot sleep. And you want to talk about paperwork? Official Pello swallowed hard. He was clearly afraid now. Good. He should be afraid. I will file an emergency request, he said quickly. I cannot promise anything, but I will try to speed up the process. It may still take several days. Make it faster, Raka said. She ended the call without saying goodbye. For a long moment, she sat alone in the dark room. Her heart was beating hard. Her hands were shaking. She was not used to feeling helpless. She was not used to problems she could not solve with strength. A soft sound came from the doorway. Raka turned and saw Miru, the nursery keeper, standing there. She was an old Vorath female, with gray patches in her brown fur. She had raised 3 generations of cubs on this ship. They are getting worse, Miru said quietly. Bora has stopped eating. Teho keeps falling down because he is too tired to walk straight. And Vorn. She paused. Vorn just sits by the door and waits. Raka closed her eyes. The pain in her chest was sharp and terrible. What did this human do to them? She asked. How did she make them love her so much? Miru walked into the room and sat down across from her alpha. Her old eyes were sad but wise. I watched her sometimes, Miru said. When she thought no one was looking, she would sit on the floor with the cubs and let them climb all over her. They pulled her hair and chewed on her clothes, and she just laughed. She acted like it was the best thing in the world. That is foolish, Raka said. Cubs are rough. They could have hurt her, yes. But she did not seem to care about getting hurt. She cared about making them happy. Oh, calmer now. Miru reached out and placed her old paw on Raka's arm. I have raised many cubs, Alpha. I have fed them and cleaned them and kept them safe. But this human did something different. She made them feel chosen. She made each one feel like they were her favorite creature in all the universe. How? Raka demanded. How do humans do that? Miru shook her head slowly. I do not know. I do not think anyone knows. It is just something humans do. They attach themselves to things. They love without reason. They give their hearts to creatures that are not their own kind, not their own blood, not their own anything. She stood up and walked toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back. The Galactic Council says humans are nothing special. They say humans are weak and common and ordinary. But I think the Council is wrong. I think humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Raka frowned. Dangerous? Humans cannot even fight properly. Miru smiled sadly. There are many kinds of danger, Alpha. The human did not fight our cubs. She did not trick them or control them. She just loved them. And now they cannot live without her. She left the room, leaving Raka alone with her thoughts. That night, Raka went back to the nursery. She lay down among the restless cubs and pulled them close to her body. They pressed against her, trembling and whimpering, too tired to cry anymore. Hold on, she whispered to them. Just hold on a little longer. She is coming. She hoped she was not lying. The small shuttle appeared on the Iron Maw's sensors 3 days later. It was a basic transport vessel, the kind used to move workers between stations. Nothing special about it at all. But to Raka, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She stood at the docking bay with her arms crossed over her chest. Around her, several crew members had gathered. Word had spread through the ship that the Alpha had demanded a human be brought back for the cubs. Some thought it was strange. Others thought it was foolish. But no one dared to question Raka out loud. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss of engines. The door opened. Slowly, a small figure stepped out. Yuna Park was exactly as Raka remembered, short and thin, with dark hair pulled back from her face. She barely reached Raka's chest. Her skin was a light brown color, smooth and without fur. She wore a dirty work suit covered in grease stains. There were dark circles under her eyes. She had traveled 18 hours without sleep to get here. For a moment, the human and the alpha just looked at each other. Yuna seemed nervous. Her hands were shaking slightly. She probably expected to be yelled at. She probably expected to be told she had done something wrong. Instead, Raka simply said, "Follow me." They walked through the halls of the ship in silence. Yuna had to take 2 steps for every one of Raka's. But she did not complain. She did not ask questions. She just followed, her tired eyes fixed straight ahead. When they reached the nursery door, Raka stopped. "They have not slept in 3 rotations," she said quietly. "They have not eaten properly. They cry your name over and over. They are." She paused, searching for the right words. "They are broken without you." Yuna's face changed. The nervousness disappeared. In its place was something else. Something fierce and protective. "Let me in," she said. Raka opened the door. The nursery was dim and quiet. 7 small shapes lay scattered around the room. They were not moving much anymore. They were too tired to move. Their fur was dull. Their eyes were half closed. They looked like they were slowly fading away. Vorn lay by the door, as always. He had worn his claws down to nothing from all the scratching. His nose was pressed against the floor. He did not even look up when the door opened. He had given up hoping. Yuna stepped inside. She took one look at the cubs and made a sound. It was a small, broken sound. Like her heart was cracking. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no. 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 My babies. What happened to you?" At the sound of her voice, Vorn's ears twitched. His eyes opened wider. He lifted his head slowly, like he could not believe what he was hearing. Then he saw her. The sound that came out of him was unlike anything Raka had ever heard. It was not a howl. It was not a cry. It was something deeper. A release. Like a dam breaking open after holding back water for too long. He stumbled toward Yuna on shaking legs. He could barely walk, but he kept going, kept pushing forward, until he reached her. Yuna dropped to her knees and caught him in her arms. "I'm here," she said. Her voice was thick with tears. "I'm so sorry. I'm here now. I'm here." Vorn buried his face in her shoulder and made that sound again. That broken, beautiful sound of relief. His whole body was shaking. The other cubs heard the noise. One by one, they lifted their heads. They saw the human kneeling on the floor, with Vorn in her arms. For a moment, they seemed confused, like they could not believe she was real. Then Bora let out a tiny cry and started crawling toward her. The others followed, slowly at first, then faster. They dragged themselves across the floor, using the last of their strength to reach her. Taeho, Suri, Minho, Jia, Hana, they all came. Yuna sat down fully on the cold metal floor and opened her arms wide. The cubs piled onto her. They buried their faces in her clothes. They pressed against her warmth. They wrapped around her legs and arms and body like she was the only solid thing in a spinning universe. "It's okay," Yuna whispered over and over. She kissed the tops of their heads. "You're safe now. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere. Thanks for watching. Will see for leap take about. I'm not going anywhere." Raka stood in the doorway and watched. The cubs were crying now, but it was a different kind of crying, not the desperate, endless crying of the past 3 days. This was the crying of release, The crying of finally letting go. Vorn's eyes began to close. His body relaxed against Yuna's chest. His breathing slowed down. He was falling asleep. One by one, the other cubs followed. Bora curled up in Yuna's lap. Teho leaned against her side. Suri fell asleep, with her nose pressed against Yuna's neck. They piled on top of each other, tangled together, with the small human at the center of it all. Within 10 minutes, all 7 cubs were deeply asleep. The nursery was finally quiet. Yuna did not move. She sat perfectly still, on the hard floor, her back against the wall, cubs covering every part of her body. Tears streamed down her face. But she was smiling. Raka took a step forward. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How?" she asked. "How did you do that?" Yuna looked up at her. Her eyes were red and wet, but they were full of something warm, something soft. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I just love them. That's all I know how to do." Raka stared at the human for a long time. This small, fragile creature, who had no claws, no fangs, no strength. This ordinary being, who had done what no Vorath healer could do. She had brought the cubs back from the edge of darkness, with nothing but love. Hours passed. The ship continued its slow journey through the stars. The lights in the nursery stayed dim, and Yuna did not move. She sat in the same position on the cold floor, surrounded by sleeping cubs. Her legs had gone numb long ago. Her back ached. Her arms were tired from holding still. But she did not shift her weight. She did not adjust her position. She did not do anything that might disturb the small creatures resting against her. Raka came back to check on them every hour. Each time, she found the same scene. The cubs sleeping peacefully. The human sitting like a statue, stroking their fur with patient hands. Finally, when the cubs had been asleep for 6 hours, Raka entered the nursery and sat down across from Yuna. She moved quietly, keeping her voice low. "You must be uncomfortable," Raka said. Yuna smiled tiredly. "A little. But it's okay. They need this. Most creatures would have moved by now. Most creatures would think of their own comfort first. I'm not most creatures, I guess." Raka studied the human carefully. Yuna's face was pale from exhaustion. Her eyes were heavy. She had traveled 18 hours to get here, and then spent 6 more hours sitting perfectly still. She must be desperate for sleep herself. But she showed no signs of complaining. "I need to understand something," Raka said slowly. "You were with these cubs for only 2 lunar cycles. In Vorath terms, that is nothing. A blink of an eye. We live for hundreds of years. 2 lunar cycles is like 2 days to us." Yuna nodded, listening. "You are not their mother," Raka continued. "You did not give birth to them. You did not carry them. You share no blood with them. You are not even the same species. By all logic, they should mean nothing to you." She leaned forward, her golden eyes intense. "So why? Why do you care so much? Why did you come running across the galaxy for cubs that are not yours?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She looked down at Vorn, who was curled up against her stomach, his small face peaceful in sleep. "On Earth," she said softly, "we have this saying, blood is not always family. Sometimes family is the people who choose you, the people who show up when you need them." She looked back at Raka. "I didn't plan to love them. It just happened. The first time Vorn climbed into my lap while I was working, I thought he was just curious. But then he fell asleep there, and something in my heart just clicked, like a door opening." "But why?" Raka pressed. "What do you gain from loving creatures that are not your own?" Yuna thought about this carefully. "I don't think love is about gaining something," she said. "At least, not for humans. We love because we can't help it. We see something small and helpless, and our hearts just reach out. We attach ourselves to things, dogs, cats, plants, even robots sometimes. We name our cars, and feel sad when they break down. She laughed quietly. Other species think we're crazy. Maybe we are. But it's just how we're built. We bond with everything. Even things that could hurt us. Even things that will never love us back. Raka shook her head slowly. That sounds like weakness. In the wild, loving things that are not yours would get you killed. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But it also kept our species alive. A long time ago, humans started taking care of wolf pups. Wild animals that could have torn us apart. But we fed them, and sheltered them, and loved them. And they became dogs. Our best friends. Our protectors. She smiled at the memory. We did the same thing with horses. With cats. With every animal we could find. We looked at dangerous creatures and thought, what if I just loved it? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but we kept trying. Raka was silent for a long time. Thinking about this. You humans bond with everything, she said finally. Even alien wolf cubs on a spaceship far from your home world. Especially alien wolf cubs, Yuna said. Look at them. How could anyone not love them? Bora shifted in her sleep, making a small sound. Yuna immediately adjusted her hold, cradling the little cub more securely. It was an automatic movement. She did not even think about it. Raka watched this and felt something strange in her chest. Something like respect. Something like wonder. When you left, Raka said, you did not say goodbye properly. Why? Yuna's face fell. Guilt filled her eyes. I didn't think they would care, she admitted. They're Vorath. They're supposed to be strong and tough, I thought. I thought I was just a temporary distraction for them. Someone to play with until they got bored. Her voice cracked. I didn't know they loved me back. I didn't know I mattered that much to them. If I had known. She shook her head. I would never have left like that. I would have fought to stay. Or at least I would have explained. I would have told them I loved them and that I would find a way to come back. Tears were falling down her face now. I broke my promise. I told them I would always come back. And then I just disappeared. They must have thought I abandoned them. They must have thought I didn't care. After. She hugged the sleeping cubs closer. I will never forgive myself for that. Raka reached out and did something she had never done to a non-Vorath before. She placed her large, clawed hand on Yuna's shoulder. The gesture was gentle. Almost tender. You came back, Raka said. That is what matters. You came back when they needed you most. Yuna looked up at her. Tears streaming down her face. I will always come back, she whispered. As long as I'm alive, as long as there's breath in my body, I will always come back for them. Raka believed her. The cubs slept for 2 full days. They woke up slowly. One by one. Blinking in the soft light of the nursery. The first thing each of them did was look for Yuna. And each time, they found her right there beside them. Waiting, smiling, ready with gentle words and warm hands. Vorn was the last to wake. He opened his eyes and saw Yuna's face above him. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then he reached up with one small paw and touched her cheek. Real? He asked in his broken voice. You are real? Yuna caught his paw and held it against her face. I'm real, little one. I'm right here. Vorn made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Then he threw his arms around her neck and held on like he would never let go. The cubs were different now. They followed Yuna everywhere she went. When she walked through the halls, they formed a protective circle around her. When crew members came too close, the cubs would growl warnings. They were small, but their message was clear. This human belongs to us. Do not touch her. Yuna did not mind. She thought it was sweet. But trouble was coming. On the 3rd day after Yuna's return, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. Official Pello's face appeared on the communications screen. Looking nervous but firm. Alpha Raka, he said. Engineer Yuna Park must return to Outpost Kira. 6 within 48 hours. Her temporary reassignment has ended. We need her back at her original post. Raka read the message in silence. Then she deleted it. Miru, who had been standing nearby, raised her gray eyebrows. Alpha? What are you doing? What does it look like? Raka replied. I am ignoring foolish orders. The council will not be happy. The council can come and complain to me in person. I would enjoy that conversation very much. Raka stood up and walked out of her chamber. She had made a decision. Now it was time to make it official. She called for a pack assembly. This was a rare event. Pack assemblies were held only for the most important decisions. Declarations of war. Elections of new alphas. Changes to ancient laws. The last assembly had been held almost 50 years ago. Every Vorath on the Iron Maw gathered in the Great Hall. 300 warriors, hunters, healers, and workers. They stood in rows, their eyes fixed on the raised platform at the front of the room. Raka climbed onto the platform. Her silver fur gleamed under the lights. Her golden eyes swept across her people. Bring the human, she commanded. A moment later, Yuna was led into the hall. She looked terrified. She was surrounded by hundreds of giant wolf creatures, all staring at her with intense eyes. Her knees were shaking, but she was not alone. The 7 cubs walked beside her, pressing close to her legs. Vorn held her hand. Bora clung to her shirt. The others formed a protective ring around her, their small bodies tense and ready. They would not let anyone hurt their human. Yuna walked to the front of the room and stopped below the platform. She looked up at Raka with wide, frightened eyes. Am I in trouble? She whispered. Raka did not answer. Instead, she raised her voice so the entire hall could hear. 3 rotations ago, our cubs were dying. They could not sleep. They could not eat. They were fading away, and none of us could save them. She pointed at Yuna. This human saved them. She traveled 18 hours without rest. She sat on a cold floor for 6 hours without moving. She did not ask for payment. She did not ask for thanks. She did not ask for anything at all. The hall was silent. Every Vorath was listening. I asked her why, Raka continued. Why she cared so much about cubs that were not her own. Do you know what she said? She paused. She said she loves them. That is all. She just loves them. Not because she has to. Not because she gains something from it. She loves them because that is what humans do. They love things, even things that are not theirs, even things that could hurt them. She looked down at Yuna, and her voice softened. I have led this pack for 80 years. I have seen many things, but I have never seen anything like this. A small, fragile creature who healed our children with nothing but patience and love. She stepped down from the platform and walked toward Yuna. The cubs parted to let her through, but they stayed close, watching carefully. Raka stopped in front of the human. Then she did something that made the entire hall gasp. She knelt down. The Alpha of the Iron Maw, the most powerful Vorath on the ship, knelt before a human engineer. By ancient right, Raka said. I name you Den Mother of the Iron Maw. Your place is with us. Your home is here. You belong to this pack now, and we belong to you. She placed her massive clawed hand on Yuna's shoulder. Any who challenge this decision may challenge me. The hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. No one challenged. Yuna stood there, with tears streaming down her face. She could not believe what was happening. She had come to this ship as a simple worker, someone who fixed machines and cleaned filters. She had never expected to find a family here, but she had. Vorn tugged at her hand. She looked down at him. Stay? He asked, his eyes full of hope. Stay with us forever? Yuna knelt down and pulled him into her arms. The other cubs immediately piled on, covering her with their small, warm bodies. Yeah, little guy, she whispered. I'm staying. Forever. From that day on, Yuna Park was no longer just a human engineer. She was den mother of the Iron Maw, mother to 7 cubs who adored her, member of a pack that had chosen her as their own, and every night she sat in the nursery and told stories. Earth stories about brave animals, and lost creatures, and families who found each other against all odds. The cubs always fell asleep with smiles on their faces, and Una stayed until morning. Every single time. Just like she promised.